Greetings and welcome back to room 303 and our talks with Walt, as we are calling our readings through the deathbed edition of Walt Whitman's Leaves of Grass. Notice the deathbed edition. We now turn to the second poem of the cluster called Whispers of Heavenly Death, and the poem itself is called Whispers of Heavenly Death. Again, poem number 2 of the 18. Soul used 19 times, as we've said in this cluster, and here, of course, we're going to be playing around with it again. Now, this poem is remarkable, a truly remarkable accomplishment, because I find myself, notice even now introducing it, whispering. That is to say, there's something august for Whitman about standing in the face and the presence of impending death. But it's not going to be frightening for him as much as it's going to be something reverential. We'll get to it. Now, our assumptions are that you've been following us at learnstrong.net. Down the left-hand side, our playlist is called Talks with Walt. And that from the very introductory word come, we've known that we were coming, no pun intended, to this kind of a poem. Now, I've given a set of introductory comments to the cluster, Whispers of Heavenly Death. I hope you've been familiarized with that. And as well, I just finished with Darest Thou. Our Nortons will tell us briefly, in some background information about this poem, that it was the first of the Broadway poems of October 1868, and it remained unchanged in the 1871 and 1876 Passage to India supplement, and in the 1881, of course, as we said, Whitman received 10 pounds in gold, $50 for this one. Now, I want to point out the female imagery for the night that will play out here, and the birthing metaphor, that parturation will be the term that we'll play with. The quiet tone I've already commented on, the whispers, the controlled treatment, reminds us a lot of Emily Dickinson. And note the, as well, intentional line lengths of the stanzas. We go from 5 lines in stanza 1 to 4 lines in stanza 2 to 3 lines in stanza 3. Everything about this poem suggests intentionality. Let's just enjoy the poem. Whispers of heavenly death, murmured I hear. Labial gossip of night, sibilant chorals, footsteps gently ascending, mystical breezes wafted soft and low, ripples of unseen rivers, tides of a current flowing, forever flowing. Or is it the flashing of tears, the measureless waters of human tears? I see skyward, great cloud masses. Mournfully, slowly they roll, silently swelling and mixing, with at times a half-dim, saddened, far-off star appearing, disappearing, some parturation, rather, some solemn, immortal birth on the frontiers to eyes impenetrable. Some soul is passing over. Now, notice how radically different this view is from Dante's description of passing over the river to the gates of hell in Inferno. We've talked about it at learnstrong.net in detail. Notice we'll begin first with the word whispers. 17 times in Leaves of Grass up to now, whisper or whispering or whispers has been used as a word. Whispers of heavenly death. Notice heavenly will give you that echo from Lilacs Last in the Dooryard Bloom 14. Heavenly, you'll remember a real beauty, right? The idea now of murmuring, already the emphasizing of whispering, but yet it's I hear. And then we'll begin with this feminine language, labial gossip. You'll remember this word labial from Song of the Banner at Daybreak. Labial gossip of night, sibilant chorals, of course, that hissing S sound. And notice all the S sounds in this poem. Sibilant chorals taking us obviously back to his love of music. Footsteps gently ascending, this idea again of up we go. Mystical breezes wafted soft and low. We've heard of mystical through Leaves of Grass already. And the idea of breezes. Ripples of unseen rivers, taking us, of course, back to autumn rivulets. Tides of a current flowing, forever flowing. Note the repeating. In other words, this idea that death is a part of life, and let's embrace that and understand that. But then, in parenthetics, it's almost as if he's asking himself this epistemological fallibilist question, or is it the flashing of tears? This is the only use, by the way, of flashing. And when you look at the word, it means interwoven, like branches and twigs. So it's I told you, so much of that weaving motif is borrowed from the Odyssey, I believe, a part of this cluster of poems of 18. Is it the plashing of tears, the measureless waters of human tears? In other words, the river of life and death, is it mixed with all of the tears that are kind of an inevitability of the fact that one must leave life? From the 5-line first stanza now to the 4-line second stanza, and he'll take this construction we're so familiar with. I see. And then the use of the word just, for just see, skyward. So there's this, again, this reminds us a lot of Emily Dickinson, the way she'll drop in one of these words, like the word just here. Just see, skyward. Great cloud masses. We're not alone in our thinking about our passing over, is the last 2 words of the poem. Mournfully, slowly, they roll silently, swelling and mixing, with at times a half-dimmed, saddened, notice at times, far-off star appearing and disappearing. Obviously, we'll think about T.S. Eliot's multifoliate rose. The hope only of empty men is what he'll call it, of course, in Hollow Men. Some, and then again in parenthetics to finish the poem, some parturation. You'll remember this word from Outlines for a Tune, from Prayer of Columbus, this idea of birth-giving. Some parturation, rather. In other words, death is not an end but a beginning, a new birth. Some solemn immortal birth. On the frontiers, it's significant. We know about his use of prairies and frontiers and leaves of grass, don't we? So now all of a sudden we've got a geography, a cartography of the soul and the idea of death as being the frontiers to eyes, and then impenetrable is the translinguistic idea. Some soul is passing over. In all of Leaves of Grass, there is one reference to this phrase, passing over, and it is right here. I find that as well truly amazing. Now, what are we going to say about this at 2a? Well, death obviously can't be feared. Why? Because if you have that right perspective, everyone has done it. And because everyone has done it who's ever lived on this planet, or everyone will do it, then there's this kind of recognition that you are not alone. Now, at 2b, the quality of this poem is stunning. I just want to point out a scholar, Steve Olson, has pointed this out, that in this poem there's actually an attempt for an actual whisper, because the controlled, quiet presentation. For example, this scholar will point out consonants are primarily continuous. Vowels tend to be medium to low register. Notice in the first line, for example, 20 consonant sounds, only 3 are stops. Of 12 vowel sounds, only 3 are the regular are in the upper register. Though these proportions do not continue throughout the poem, the first line sets the tone, emphasizes the aureole quality. As well, the scholar continues, the fluidity of the present participles and the implied movement in the images of breezes, water, clouds, of course adding to the artistry of the poem. And then this scholar will finish, like noiseless patient spider that we will see later, Calvary crossing a ford, and dalliance of eagles, whispers, as we've seen those poems already. Whispers shows Whitman's ability to compose highly crafted poems, his ability to work in a compact poetic medium, something like that of his contemporary Emily Dickinson, in quote. I love that idea that we can compare Dickinson and Whitman in a poem like this. That's fun. Well, where are we going to go with this at 3a? How can we compare this? Well, I like to compare this to the beautiful lines of the Bhagavad Gita, where you will have Krishna talking with Arjuna, and of course Arjuna is deeply concerned about the possibility that he may die, and there's concern here. I like the reworking of this idea in T.S. Eliot's Dry Salvages 3, lines 157 to 172. I have said I don't think you can read 4 quartets without understanding Whitman, and I've given full lectures on this elsewhere at learnstrong.net. But I just read it to you again, the beauty of these lines. This is the way Eliot says it. At the moment which is not of action or inaction, you can receive this. On whatever sphere of being the mind of a man may be intent at the time of death, that is the one action. And the time of death is every moment, which shall fructify in the lives of others, And do not think of the fruit of action. Fare forward. O voyagers, O seamen, you who come to port, and you whose bodies will suffer the trial and judgment of the sea, or whatever event, this is your real destination. So Krishna, as when he admonished Arjuna on the field of battle, not farewell, but fare forward, voyagers. Well, I also like Shelley's Ode to the West Wind. You'll remember in part 5, and we've given full lectures on this as well at Learn Strong, you'll remember that he says that he wants to, like withered leaves, to quicken a new birth. Now, of course, that idea of leaves, and taking this one back to leaves of grass, is the connection we've already made. But this idea of quickening a new birth, I think, is part of this parturation idea. And that takes us to 3b. What parturation in your life exists? What new birth? What new understandings? And is it possible that your study of leaves of grass is helping that parturation to take place? I certainly hope so. Thank you.